Hey, so, there's a pandemic. I have 3 more videos to edit and upload, but I was very unmotivated to edit them, but they'll be up eventually. I've been thinking a lot on my journey to becoming a better human, and I want to implement new habits. When I came back from Spain, I went back to binging YouTube all the time, playing Animal Crossing for hours. And so I'm trying to turn things around and lead my life a different way and come out of this pandemic living a slightly improved life. In the spirit of new habits, I'm going to talk about some books. I was never really a book person. I never read much as a kid or ever. And so me talking about books right now is very interesting. In the past month, I've read like 9 books, which might not seem like some, given that we're in a pandemic and we don't have much else to do. But I don't know. I think it's a lot. Anyways, the first book that I read was Handmaid's Tale. I got it from my English teacher when I graduated high school, and it's been sitting on my bookshelf ever since. And honestly, I didn't read it because it has its own TV show that I haven't watched, and I thought I already knew everything about it. But Margaret Atwood is a very intelligent writer, hence why her book became so famous. A lot of dystopians, we wonder how the world even got this way, but Margaret Atwood wrote the society in a subtle way that makes it more believable and therefore scarier. But yeah, it was a really awesome book. And then I read the Matched Trilogy. My sister and I in a summer program where you read this much and you can get a prize, which was one of the books on this bookshelf. My sister chose Matched, and nothing else on the bookshelf seemed appealing to middle school me, so I just chose the second book. So now we have 2/3 of a trilogy. So I read those. They're basic dystopians, but it brought a sense of nostalgia from when dystopians were super trendy when I was in middle school-ish. And then my dad found his old Kindle, and so I read the 3rd book on here, and I didn't know that you could borrow books from the library through Kindle. I knew that the library had started renting out Kindles, but it didn't really dawn on me that you could borrow digital books. That seems so strange to me. But maybe I'm just old. Anyways, I started reading a lot of cool new books that had a different flavor from what I used to read, and I don't know if it's just become a rising movement in expanding the diversity and genres of the books, but it's been really cool. And most of these books, actually not most, probably all of these books that I read have been recommended by this one YouTuber, which I didn't even know booktubers were a thing, but it's pretty awesome, and almost all of these were recommended by one booktuber called thisstoryaintover, and I really like her perspectives and her summaries on everything.
And please remember that the story ain't over. Bye!
So I first read Eliza and Her Monsters, which is about this girl named Eliza, and she creates a very famous webcomic, and millions of people read it. But her family is very extroverted and very sporty, and she just sits in her room drawing all the time, so they kind of don't understand her. And we see her anxiety play through her last year of high school. And a boy transfers in, and he's a super big fan of this comic, and he writes fan fiction, and they become friends, but Eliza doesn't reveal that she's the creator of this whole world. It's just a super cute book, and I would read it again, and it's just very cute. And then I tried to read Less, which was a very interesting plot, but I don't know if it gets better in the end, but it was kind of boring in the beginning, and I didn't read for a few days until I realized, hey, I'm not required to read this book. I can just drop it. I don't like stopping things midway, but I have the power to do that. I can just drop it. So, I've dropped it, and I haven't read past the 3rd chapter. There are a lot of better books for me to spend my time on, including With the Fire on High, which is about a Puerto Rican single mom in her last year of high school, and she wants to be a chef. She's really skilled in cooking, and there's little recipes that are written with the soul, kind of. Like it says a handful of this and a pinch of this, and serves a warm heart on a rainy evening, and things like that. And it's just very heartwarming, and it's a very awesome story about how she's trying to figure out how to live her life while also balancing her family. And then I read Other Words for Home, which is about a family in Syria, but then the mom and the daughter moves to America and moves in with with the daughter's uncle, the mom's brother, who immigrated to America a long time ago. And not only does it talk about the main character daughter's point of view of America, which is also very interesting. She says things like, Americans shrug a lot, and they do this thing where they talk about something difficult and they say, you know, at the end, and they make you fill in the hard part, which is very annoying. And I just thought it was very interesting to see all of those things. And we also see the character of the uncle who no longer speaks Arabic much and doesn't go to the mosques and doesn't really talk about his home country because he rejected all of those to try to fit in as much as he could. And also his American daughter, Sarah, who at first rejects her cousin immigrant and says, don't be so weird in front of my friends. Don't try it for the school play. Hey, let's not do that. But then later we see her say, you can speak Arabic. That's so cool. You're so lucky. You have this home country that's far from here and where you belong and things like that. It's just really cool to see all those different identities played together and how one immigrant story can kind of branch out. Anyways, I've been reading a lot of books with these characters from more minority groups. And even though I'm not a part of these specific minority groups, I'm not Puerto Rican, I'm not Muslim, I can still relate to some of their perspectives, which is really cool. And even though some of the other books that I read have more basic storylines, there's an extra layer of, like Josh in Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating is Korean, and so there's an extra layer of his culture and background and food that makes the story a little more interesting and a little more multi-dimensional. So that's super cool, and that's what I've been enjoying reading, and it helps me learn more, and it's cooler to resonate with characters. I'm currently reading The Cruel Prince, which is a fantasy series, and it's pretty interesting. They did say the first book was a little tough to get through. I'm a little more than halfway through it, and it's kind of creepy, but only because I'm making the characters kind of creepy in my head. My brain likes to do this, where I hate scary things, but my brain is so creative, they create the most terrifying monster in my head. It's great. I live a great life. And next on my list is Love from A to Z, and also Lauren Graham's In Conclusion, Don't Worry About It, which I believe was a commencement speech that she kind of elaborated more on. And I'm not going to become a book collector just because I've read a few books, but there's a charity called Orphans Treasure Box, and they accept donated books and then sell them and use the funds to help orphans, foster children, foster families, and each book was only $2 to $3. Some of them are $4 to $5. Yeah, these books I got from Orphans Treasure Box, and I do want to have some books that I want to read again or that I think have a really good message that I want to lend to people and force them to read it. But these books, some of them might stay, but I might just donate them back and then we'll have a beautiful cycle. I did just buy this one book off of Amazon though, called A Very Large Expanse of the Sea. And look, it's so pretty! The colors are so pretty and the font and everything, it's just very pretty. But it's about a Muslim girl who talks about her life and how it changed after 9/11, so I'm excited to read about this and her journey on her identity, race, and Islamophobia. Taps into the fierceness and passion of first love. Novel's bittersweet ending. Oh no, what happens? Anyways, we'll find out. Probably after I read Cruel Prince. I only have a few days left on my rent. They have like 21 copies and they were all checked out, so people are doing a lot of reading. I wonder why. I also got Transcendent from my dear friend Ariel, and he says it's quite dense, and these kind of small, tiny font books scare me, but we'll see what happens. We'll see when I read it. Maybe it'll go through a Handmaid's Tale situation where it just sits on my shelf for 2 years before I read it, but that's what I've been filling my days with. Still working on the YouTube addiction. Ironic. And maybe I should actually get to editing the videos from like 4 months ago from my time in Spain. Okay, I have a meeting to go to. Bye-bye!